when people see your face and hear your voice before they come in, right? Not only does it help you like in booking the appointment, right, and getting people to show up, but once they show up, well, they already have like they're familiar with you.
Yeah.
And even if whether people talk to you once on the phone before coming in versus never saw you again, there's a big difference in that.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the High Level Spotlight Sessions, where we showcase awesome marketers doing awesome marketing. Today, I'm coming to you from the High Level headquarters in Dallas, and I am joined by Sal Steffano. He's the co-founder, CEO, more importantly, the visionary of Social Marketing 180, which is an agency that focuses on the cryotherapy space. Sal, thanks so much for coming on.
Yeah, appreciate you having me, Chase. Happy to be here.
So I was thrilled to learn that you and your other co-founder got together at a high-level event, which is pretty awesome. How long ago was that?
Oh man, I think we first met about 2 years ago. It was, Rob had signed up with Rob Bailey in the early days. He had really, helped me and Andrew before we even knew each other. And so we had, met there. I think it was like his Nurture and Close conference. And, of course, high level guys were there, Sean and Alex, they were there. Robin, right? Robin, Alex.
Yeah.
But yeah, and so it was kind of cool because we got to meet Rob, met Robin, got to meet Sean, so it was like, and all these other great marketers in the same room. So it's really cool. Andrew, like he actually we kind of like sat down next to each other, and there's kind of like a joke that was made almost unintentionally. We both kind of started laughing in the middle of like the whole group, and so we kind of just kicked it off. And my partner Andrew Sousa, that day he ended up inviting me to pizza. I'm like, man, like dude, you're my guy, dude. I love pizza. So he invited me to pizza. We just kind of kicked it off. And, from there, I don't know, for about a year, I was kind of like helping him with some different things because he's a younger guy, and I've been like in the agency space since I was like 20 years old. So almost 15 years now, 14 and a half years. So, just doing what I can to help him. And we just kind of, had a really great relationship with each other and, decided, hey, let's, instead of like working separately, let's become business partners and kind of crush it together,
So let me ask you, you guys have both been doing this on your own. You guys combine forces. You're going to start this new thing. How did you guys decide on the niche of cryotherapy?
So he was already doing cryo. And at that time I was doing gyms, owned a gym, all that kind of stuff. And, it just at the beginning, like I didn't really want to focus on cryo. I didn't really know much about it. And I'm like, well, let's do gyms and some other stuff. But then this was like when pandemic hit really hard, And so we kind of like went through a phase where we try to like work with a bunch of other verticals, because we felt like, man, these like retail places, we're kind of like worried about this happening again in the future and being like a yearly thing. And so we kind of like actually like kind of stepped away from cryo to focus. Then we started focusing on like lawyers, right? Which we did pretty good there, like selling, but then like we ran into some we just didn't like the industry, just to put it simple, right? Like we're doing really good. But then like we got into like real estate, and then we realized like, man, like we don't really like this either. And we're like, well, we looked at our audience or our clients, and like 80% of who we were working with was still cryo, even though we weren't focusing on it. Like we just kept getting referrals. And I was like, man, like we're freaking idiots. Let's just like focus on where like 80% of our business already is. And so we started really focusing on that about 6 months ago. And it's just like, I don't know, it just, kind of happened. And me, myself, like over the last few months, I've been going to cryotherapy services myself. And just, I've been, realized that, hey, this isn't some like, fake pseudo science. Like this is like real stuff that really helps people. And that's like kind of like what lit a fire under us to kind of take our agency and really just specialize specifically in the cryo space. Okay. Plus, like there's, we're doing it better than everybody else in the space. There's not like really anybody in there, right now. There's a couple people, don't get me wrong, like they do pretty good themselves, man. But they focus more like on other specific modalities or services, and not like all encompassing of all the different treatments, because they do a lot more than just cryotherapy, these places, So they have everything from like membership packages to like, high ticket services for like weight loss and, stuff like that. So we just figured like, hey man, we're already kind of like, dominating here, and we have a lot of testimonials, and it just kind of makes sense. It was just like, I don't know, it's like one of those like really stupid things that you do in business, not realizing like the answer's underneath your nose the whole time.
Yeah. Why fight it?
Right. And so sometimes we get so caught up in like the day to day, right, which was like kind of what happened, then, like you're not really seeing what's going on. Right. And so we kind of like figured that out, realized that, and just kind of, switch gears about 6 months ago.
That's great. And you guys feel like you have it dialed in. I don't want you to give away your secret sauce, but I would love if you could share with us what, do you run the same sort of offer typically for all of your clients? Do you find that there's like a really solid model that works across all of them?
So we got a library, of ads and offers that we run, because there's like so many different services that they have. And so we basically run the same type of offers. It's not like one or two offers. Like when I was, when I focus a lot in gyms, and we still do gyms, but when I focused a lot in gyms, like all we were doing was like, 10-day pass, right? Because, hey, it worked. It's awesome. Like, I don't really need to do nothing. I didn't get into the challenges and all that. But the cryo, it's definitely, it's a bit different, right? And then what we've done is, instead of like branching out into like a lot of different niches and stuff, we've just gotten really deep within this vertical. And so we're able to not only like, help, run ads and, generate the leads. And of course, anybody who, has been high level for a while probably knows that like I'm really big, on callers, right? And so, then like probably that's like one of our biggest thing is we get to all of our leads within 5 minutes. If not, like 60
let's talk about that. So, we obviously teach people to use high level to automate the nurture and really focus on the first 5 minutes, sending SMSs, emails, voicemail drops, using the call feature. But do you guys actually offer done for you calling, a call center essentially? And I feel like this is a model that most agencies in theory agree that sounds great. Like, this is awesome. But then when they try to actually make the economics of it work and sell it, it's pretty hard to pull off. So talk to me about how are you guys making this work, and what does it cost your clients to purchase that package?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, our baseline package, starts at, well, we have like specific franchises we give certain deals with, right?
Okay.
So like our base right now is $2,000 a month.
Okay.
And if you're like with certain franchises, we charge $1,500 a month. And so
Okay, that's cool.
keep in mind, we do have some like higher end services where we do like more than just like the basics that go up to 5,000 a month. But that being said, kind of how it works, the economics. So when we first started doing this, we had about like one account manager, aka a caller, right? That was managing about 20 accounts, right? And so they were, I don't know, even more than that, but they were just doing, text, right? And then so we got into the calls, and then they're, I don't know, managing about 15 accounts, right? But the thing is they weren't able to get to people as fast as I wanted to, right? So we went from like 15 down to 10, so where they're handling like 10 accounts. And then we went down all the way recently down to 5. And so so one person manages 5 accounts. That's their accounts. They're responsible for the text messages, calls. We even like actually like go into like mind body, for example, and like we'll book the appointment. And how we're able to do this is we actually, we outsource, not outsource. I don't even want to say, I shouldn't even say outsource. We hire and we employ people overseas.
I was going to say, okay, is that a big part of the model to be able to make
absolutely.
it affordable?
If I was doing the US, like I wouldn't be able to do it at the competitive rates that we do.
So are you saying in the $2,000 package, you include the calling?
Yep. And it's actually the number one reason, because it's the highest point of leverage, right? Anybody can generate, list of leads for people. And don't get me wrong, the text, automations, that's good. We do all that stuff, and then dialogue flow and everything, like all that's great. But here's the thing, like it's that human connection, right? And so I've been in business since I was 20 years old. And like that's like what's really important to me is that human to human connection. And when you have that human connection, and when people like know that they're talking to a real human being, like all of your show up rates are higher, the cost per sale is a lot better in the back end. And so it all starts to make sense. And then when you look at retention, right? Like I would rather make a little bit less my margins and have the retention. But that being said, if you're paying somebody, we typically start out our callers at about $600 a month, and we actually give them $100, raise per month over the course every 90 days for the first year. So start at 600, and they can make all the way $1,000 a month, plus some different bonuses and stuff. Right. And so when you break that down, our average caller, makes about, I don't know, $800 a month. Right. And so if you break that down, it comes out to, I don't know, about 150, or I think it's 142 is our exact number, but whatever it is, like, and you look at that, you can compare that in context with, You know,
150 per what?
sorry, yeah, sorry, that's our like labor cost, right? When we're looking at our
Per customer, is that what you mean?
Correct. So yeah, yeah, exactly, per customer.
Cool.
So we
I
got
really appreciate you sharing that, by the way. That's
yeah.
awesome. I
I
feel
mean,
like
to me, like, I'm not worried about somebody stealing, copying, whatever. I mean, at the end of the day, like, what we do is like so complex on the back end, and like the way we have our systems and processes set up, that it's very, very hard to copy what we do, even if you know what we're going to do. Like it just is, you know, because
yeah.
not only that, like, you know, a big part of running a business, right, is knowing how to actually build a team and have the right team.
Well, that was my next question for you. It's so hard. And do you guys feel like just finding a person who is a good fit, that their English is good enough, they have a personality to make those connections when they're on the call, do you worry about scaling? Like, man, if we really take off, it would be hard to find another 3, 4, 5 callers. No?
Not at all. I mean, we're at a point where we're hiring like 1 to 2 a week right now.
Wow, really?
And so yeah, so we have it really tight, how we do our recruiting. We know exactly who we're looking for, and we have a very rigorous process. But what we do is, you know, my or our recruiting process is set up to cause a lot of friction, to push a lot of people away, so that by the time we get to the end of it, right, we rely on a lot of webinar or automated webinars and automation.
You're still here? All right, you're hired.
Right, exactly. That's basically the way it is. And then once they're brought on, like it's we put them through basically like a stress test over that first 2 weeks, very hard during the first 3 days. It's like, hey, you got to make like, you know, 400 calls in a day. I don't care how long it takes you, whether it's 6 hours or 12 hours, right? Like, you got to be willing to do what it takes, you know, to get through this, right? And so we have all that stuff. We have tonality training. We make sure like you have to have your stuff memorized, your scripts and everything, like, and you have to like pass a test basically every single day. And so because of the process, wow. So like the reason why it's so front loaded, right? Our recruiting process is, I want to know in the very beginning if somebody's going to make it or not, right? And so just by the first like webinar, you know, like we get 100 applicants that come through that, like, actually, so like a lot of people are just going to fail the reading comprehension test and stuff like that, right? So there's like probably 75% of people, they don't even make it through the application process. The 25% who show up, you know, to the webinar, about 50 to 70%, depending on the week, they're going to drop through. And then the people who do, you know, make it past that, who say they want to come in, about 50%, 75%, whatever it is, they're going to show up. And then from there, like, it just goes deep and deep. And so basically, for every like 100 applicants that we get, we hire basically one person makes it through a recruiting process in the first 2 weeks. But here's the thing is, after somebody's made it through 2 weeks, like, we don't lose our people anymore. Like, so after they make it through that, I think we've had, in our entire business right now, we've had really two regrettable turnovers of employees. Like, so 2 people, that's it. One person was a caller that we didn't want to lose, right? And funny enough, they like ended up wanting to come back like a month and a half, 2 months later. So that doesn't almost even really count, right? But then the other person, you know, that was in sales, which has nothing to do with the callers. So it's like, when you know what you want, when you have your core values of your business built out, right? And anybody who follows me knows I talk about attraction and Gino Wickman all the time, the entrepreneur operating system. And it's like, so like, that is like the foundation between like, for my success in hiring a good team, because at the end of the day, your business is really just made up of the people that's in it. All the other stuff, the systems, the operations, your product, services. I'm not saying that stuff doesn't matter, but that stuff doesn't matter if you don't have the right people running those things in your business. Otherwise, like, you're just an employee in your business, and, you know, I can't, you know, have the time to have these cool calls with people like you, man. It's
so funny because I think I feel like this is the 3rd spotlight session in a row where we've talked about rocket fuel and the visionary integrator relationship and things like that. And so, yeah, I mean, people is the hard part, and especially call centers. And it's insane to me that you guys have it so dialed down, because I feel like it is such an advantage. You know, we talk about the story of high level is, hey, if you're sending spreadsheets of leads to your clients, you might as well pack it up. You know what I mean? Like, you need to put high level behind it and automate, nurture into bookings. But if somebody is actually doing it within the first 5 minutes consistently, that you just can't get better than that, right? And so it is the secret weapon. It's the holy grail, I would say, but it's so hard to pull off. And you know, I've tried it at an agency myself. I've spoken to so many people who have spent so much money trying to make call centers work, and it's a really hard thing to pull off. So congrats to you guys.
Well, I appreciate it. Like you saying that, it's kind of funny you even mentioning that, because like this is something like, it's not that like I don't realize that there's like a lot of work that I put into it. And keep in mind, I've been doing, sales and marketing, high ticket sales. I've worked for some of the largest corporations in the world. So I have a lot of experience doing this stuff myself, right? So it's like not like I had no clue what I was doing, and just got into an agency and had this work, right? Like I've done this, I've ran call center teams in the past, I've ran sales teams. And so, but for me, like one of the challenges was, how do I do this successfully overseas to keep our margins well, right? And the funny thing is, though, once we figure this out, like it's actually a lot easier for us, and we get a lot better quality results than I did in the past, like with companies where we had larger budgets to do something like this, right? And hiring American workers, like it's actually better, which is crazy. Like I just feel like, and it's not like a slant on America. I love I love our country and everything, but I just feel like a lot of these people overseas, they're more grateful, they're more appreciative, to be able to work from home, to have a job, and like they don't necessarily like have some of the freedoms that we have. And so especially during COVID and all this stuff, like it's like they're just like super thankful, and like they show up, they don't, like I don't know, like it's just completely different than from what I'm used to. And I'm not saying that there's not good American workers, but like if I took like a sample of 100 random Americans, there's 100 random like Filipinos or Mexican workers, right? Like I'd put my money on the Filipino Mexicans that are going to do better overall.
Yeah, that's interesting. So talk to me about, before we I have another question about this, but before we get to it, talk to me about personalized and automated video. Where does that fit into this model? You mentioned that earlier before we started recording and whatnot, and so I'm curious as to how this plays into the whole scheme of things.
Oh man, I forgot I mentioned that to you. Maybe I shouldn't talk about that. We'll talk about it. So we said Holy Grail, right? So what I'm about to talk about, if what we talked about before we thought was the Holy Grail, this makes it that look like nothing. So basically, I've figured out how to take a video where you record like yourself or somebody else, like a talking head video, right? And actually take that video, use a machine learning, and actually change what's being said and show it on the screen without having to re-record. And so right now we've been doing this manually, right? So like basically, and let me explain like how we came across this, right? So one of the things that we do for our outbound prospecting, right, is we send personalized videos to people. And so we learned, from Mike Arcee, this thing called the vid machine. And so the vid machine is like you create a template of a video, like 2-3 minutes long, however long it is. But in the beginning, right, you record like 10 seconds of an introduction, right? So you'd be like, hey, John, with the team at US Gym, right? And then the rest of the video was already pre-recorded. So you would just have to spend a day where you spend like a few hours, half a day, full day, depending on the size of your list, but you can get to like 800 to 1,000 people just recording that 10 seconds real quick. And then what you do is you have your, what we do now, what we did in the past was you would have like your team, right? We'd have like one of our guys, they put together the videos and stuff. They change the clips out so that we had like these super personalized videos without making a 3-minute video each time. So, leveraging delegation, some different software. And so that was working really good for us. We send out 100 of these videos, we get like 5 to 10 new clients. So it's like 5-10% conversion rate on these videos that take us one day and take, I don't know, where our guys are manually be able to do like 25 to 50 a day, send these things out, build the landing pages, all that kind of stuff, kind of like the Billy Jean approach, right? How he was started doing his local marketing. And so one of my things is like, I've always been like, man, like with machine learning and all this stuff, like, why can't we just like change what's being said out of that person's mouth, right? And so I figured out a way to use machine learning to actually change the words that are coming out of somebody's mouth, right? And so we can like basically create as
Does it do the deep fake thing where it actually makes the lips look like it's saying the right words?
So, all right, I'm gonna get dangerously close here into revealing too much. And like, I'm very much an open book, but this is literally like a huge thing I'm working on even outside this business. The thing is, there's software out there that will do the deep fake, words. But here's the thing is, you can tell. And even if you can't tell as a human, subconsciously, your brain will be able to tell, and you're just going to be turned off by it. You're going to get red flags. I tell people this all the time, like in sales and marketing, just because you can't tell something, right? For example, if I get on a sales call and I'm in a bad mood that day, it doesn't matter how much I pretend, with my voice and all.
Yeah.
The subconscious can tell even if you can't, right? And so that was one of the issues, was okay, cool. So I can do this, but then it's like, the video kind of looks like garbage. And then the company that provides that, they want like $1 per video, which isn't, whatever. That's not bad. But the thing was, it just wasn't authentic, Okay. And if you're trying to come off as authentic, well, it needs to sound and feel authentic. So what I did was figured out a way to basically, all right, I'm just going to go ahead and say this right here, whatever somebody else wants to do it, that's cool. But so I come from a background like, really, really poor. My dad broke his neck when I was a kid, lost everything. And it was always like, figure it out. I was like, watching MacGyver and stuff. And so like, as a kid, I was like fixing everything and figuring out problems, a lot of times using metaphorically, bubble gum and duct tape. Right?
Yeah.
And as with my background too in graphic design, videos, all that stuff, sometimes you get like photos and videos from clients that aren't that great. And so sometimes like you create like special effects and stuff to make it look like cool and stuff without it, right? You get what I'm saying? And so
totally 100%.
And so what I figured out was, well, hey, all I got to do is show the person beginning of the video saying, hey, and then as soon as the words, come out of their mouth, right? Like for the custom part with their name, their business name, well, let me just throw a splash screen up that says their name and business name. Now, all of a sudden, I don't have to worry about that side of the video looking good right now. And trust me, if I had like, the right budget, $2 to $5 million or something, like I'll figure out how to do the video side of it, make it look good, which is, my plan in the future here. But for right now, it's like, figure out how to get it done without actually like solving that problem, creating a problem, right? And so
that makes sense.
That's one of the things I love.
As soon as you see and hear your name, your brain kind of like blinks, right? And kind of like you have to sort of focus on what just happened. And so it doesn't really matter that someone's not saying it. You saw a face, you saw a friendly looking human, then you hear your name, you see your name, and now you have no choice but to focus in on what just happened.
Well, that's the beautiful part. They still hear the audio. They just don't see the video. So it's not just like the text on the screen. It's still going to say, hey, John, with US Cryo or whatever, right? It'll still say that audibly, but when it says those things, right, there's just a splash screen on the screen, so you don't see the video other than like right before. It's almost like little trickery there, right?
Makes sense, yeah.
So it's kind of like the whole like if you take a word and you have like the first word of the letter correct and the last letter in
your brain figures it out.
As long as the letters in between are right, your brain will figure it out, right?
Yeah.
And so it's basically kind of like that. And then you combine that with, taking like their website in the background, their Facebook page, their Google reviews, and then, or whatever else, right? Because like when you go after like a certain audience, you have your niche down, or you have like a certain franchise you're working with, whatever it may be, right? It's you know what their problems are, even though like I can pull like a list of, let's say, 500 Orange Theory, gyms, right? And pull all their information. Well, I know we're, like working with the Orange Theory, for example, like, hey, I know that all of them have these 3 problems, right? So it looks super customized,
right? Even
though it's really not.
Yeah. Smart. Yeah, totally.
So my whole thing was we started using that for sales prospecting, right? But now what we're working on building is actually using that for when a new lead comes in.
Right.
Instead of just giving them a call now we can send a personalized video saying, hey, John, I saw that you just filled out the form on Facebook. My name is, Tina, right? And that'll be like the person at the location, right? And like now all of a sudden, now they're getting face to name, right? And then they're getting all this other communication. And we do other stuff like indoctrination campaigns, man, where they're like retargeted before they even come in for their appointment to show, like to, pre-educate them and pre-sell, right? But it's like what you're doing, and this is one thing I noticed in my gym, is when people see your face and hear your voice before they come in, right? Not only does it help you like in booking the appointment, right, and getting people to show up, but once they show up, well, they already have like they're familiar with you.
Yeah.
And even if whether people talk to you once on the phone before coming in versus never saw you again, there's a big difference in that. There's a huge difference. People feel like they've known you longer, right? And they just trust you more. They're more open. And the more touch points people have with you, the more that they trust you. It's like watching somebody online, and they don't have to be like a big celebrity or nothing, right? Like for example, Sean, right? Like before I met him in person, I've seen him online. I've talked to him on, you guys had the intro calls you guys used to do, right? With Sean.
Yep.
And so we do all that, but then when I met him in person, it's like that celebrity effect, right? And so
Yeah.
imagine taking that celebrity effect and applying that to the front desk girl.
Yeah, your
retail location and your staff and your sales people. And like that's the whole beauty of it. And that's the whole that's the reason why a human is so important. And so for me, that's like
pretty
really,
it seems like a no-brainer, but to me, it's actually super smart, right? So imagine if somebody books something and then you drip them a series of videos from your front desk person, let's say, for example, who's talking about facts, what to prepare for, what to expect, somebody watches a couple of videos from that same person, it does create this like micro sort of celebrity, or maybe celebrity is not the right word, but like feel like I know you type of thing, right? Like I ran into so many people at TNC and they're like, dude, I feel like I know you. Like I've seen so many videos that you've put out. I feel like I know you. And it makes me feel great, obviously, but imagine if I were trying to sell them something, how much more receptive they would be to what I'm selling. And I think that's a really interesting strategy that nobody does, right? And it would be pretty easy because there's always information you want the customer to have before they show up, right? So I think that's pretty smart.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that whole human connection. I mean, that's why, before I sold the gym, I mean, dude, in the middle of Corona, took it after 2 months of opening, right? Reopening the middle of Corona. Before that, it was like $5,000 a month recurring revenue, all the way to $50,000 a month in like 2.5 months. And I took brand new sales guys who had like never really sold before, right? And definitely didn't sell in the gym vertical, and definitely didn't sell high ticket stuff. And they're closing like literally like 85% was like the average. And I'm talking like $200 a month gym memberships. And then we had an upsell that we were getting about 30% of our members to buy that started at $750 a month and went up to $1,200 a month. So like, dude, that's absolutely insane for that vertical. Right. And here's the beautiful thing. Like it wasn't like a bunch of super rich people either. Dude, the people who are buying these memberships, some of them were like, servers at restaurants and stuff, man. Like,
hey, it's a tried and true industry, right? As we get older, we all get a little looser than we want to be. And so we all know that we should be going to the gym. And it's the same thing with cryo. I think that's a great niche as well, because we all wish that we looked a little bit better as we get older. And so these things sell themselves in a way, but if you apply smart strategy to it, like you're doing, I feel like it makes all the sense in the world that you can just ramp it up like crazy.
Well, you take all that, right? And so here's the thing, right? So we're talking about the upfront sell, right? Now, here's the thing too. Now, this is what a lot of agencies don't do, right? They help people get through the doors, right? But then now you have people who help with the coaching and stuff, the weekly stuff, right? And hey, we do that. We do it as a group, and we also do one-on-one with their teams. But also their old clients, right? We have campaigns to bring them in, not just a DR either. I'm talking like full-blown like campaigns, full-blown retargeting, like, everything to get those people to keep coming through the door. And not only that, but we show we just built this out, and we can do it now, full attribution from top to bottom. A lot of the complicated part was because a lot of our clients use MindBody, and man, anybody who's messed with MindBody, it's a mess to integrate with.
Yeah.
We've got it now to a point where we're able to show our clients now that on a weekly basis, you've spent this much on ads, and here's like, I don't know, a quarter of what your retainer is, right? If you break it down over 4 weeks, right? And then here's how much money you made. And when you show them, like, hey, you spent like $3,000 on this month between a retainer and ad spend. And we showed you not lifetime value, but actual cash money. Your location is making is $15,000, $20,000, $25,000, $30,000 from directly that we can prove. It's like, now we have clients forever, right? And so I don't know, like our client retention, keeps climbing each and every month because people just aren't leaving, right? But like right now, as things stand, we have about a 14-month retention rate as an agency, which is like, that's the average. It's not our top, that's average.
It's amazing. And what I love about it is when you can scale to that point where you're consistently retaining clients, you can get really creative, like you're saying, and you can do things like, all right, well, a month after a cryo or whatever, they should have already seen the results. So let's hit them with hey, do you have any friends who could benefit from cryo? We're running a recommendation promotion where, your friend could get X% off or whatever, like all these viral follow-up campaigns that you can build that most agencies, to be honest, never get to because they're still fighting the upfront battle of getting new clients and trying to retain them. And so I love to see established agencies who have, figured it out and who are stable, profitable, scaling, because then you can do things like you're talking about. Like, okay, well, what happens after the initial sale? Like, what's the next promo that we nurture them right into that makes sense? And I feel like that's when it gets really fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing I want to mention here too, like I'm not like some super genius or anything. In fact, I tell people all the time, I'm a freaking idiot, but the thing is like, I just don't give up. And like, whenever I want to learn something, or if I go into a new vertical, right, or learn a new software, like I find the top like 3 to 5 people, right, that know what they're doing in that industry, that vertical, that service, whatever it is you're learning, right, or trying to be the best at. And what I do, I just try to throw them as much money as I possibly can. You know what I'm saying? And because like, it's like, hey, you got this book, cool, I'm going to buy that. All right, the book was cool. Now I'm going to buy your course. Now I'm going to buy your course. Now I'm going to buy your mentorship. And then like, you get to a point where I've eventually got to people where they're like, hey, like I have nothing more to sell you, dude. Sorry. Like, that's all we got. And so, but like, that's kind of like what I would call like my cheat codes, right? Is like, I just like try to learn from everybody else, that I read a lot of books and stuff. And like, that's really, like,
well, now I have to ask you, are you willing to help people figure out some of the things that you have, especially the calling model? Because I feel like that's like the hardest nut to crack ever. Do you help coach people through that?
So I do, but the thing that I want to preface that with is I don't sell a course. I don't sell group coaching. And it's not that there's anything wrong with those, but me, like if I'm going to work with somebody, like I'm going to work with them one-on-one. And I'm going to make sure, like, I'm not going to work with anybody that I don't think is going to be successful, right? Because like I'm not cheap, right? And I only work with maximum 3 to 5 people per year, as a consultant. And so like for the right people who are motivated, like, and who are already, kind of doing good, but just want to do better. Maybe they're stuck like at that 10 to 20,000 range. That's like honestly like one of my sweet spots is helping people that are stuck anywhere between $10 to $50,000 and really how to just 10x that growth over the course of 12 months. I've done it with of my own businesses, 4 businesses over the last 5 years. I've sold 3 of those businesses. And so for me, like I just enjoy helping people, but at the same time, like I don't want to build a course. Like it's not that I don't believe in them. I think courses and like that kind of stuff is like in group coaching is good when you're like starting out. But I believe like people, once you start getting to like the point where, okay, like you're good at what you do, but you just don't know how to escape that, hell of, having like being stuck in the business and not feeling like you can go take 3 months off and the business won't crumble, And so for me, it's like people who just really want to get to that next level and want a business that actually like runs itself without having to be involved in the day-to-day. Now, don't get me wrong. Like, for example, if you look at my schedule, right? Like I don't put anything on my schedule really, I'm like, kind of like, I'm not Alex Ramosi, the guy's like freaking beast mode, right? And getting there maybe one day, but I'm like him in the sense of I like to wake up, kind of when I want to, do what I want to, right? And so if that means that I don't want to do any work for the next 5 days, like I ain't going to do no work. But at the same time, like I have like projects that I'm working on that I love. And like, dude, I might spend 12 hours working on a project in a day and be like, oh crap, where did the time go? Because I don't have to worry about all that day-to-day stuff. And I think it's really important to note if you want to grow and scale your business, there's 2 things you have to remove yourself from. Number one, that's like sales and client relationships. You have to remove yourself from those things because what's going to happen is number one, if you're taking all the sales calls, man, it's just going to burn you out. Like it just, I don't know, my opinion, really isn't. I come from a heavy sales background, right? I don't want to be on sales calls every day. It just kind of burns you out, But the second part of that is because if you're doing that, well, guess who they're going to call when they have a problem? They're going to call you. Yeah. Now, what happens when you have, as you scale and grow a business, right? You're going to have more and more problems, right? Like problems don't go away the bigger you get. In fact, the more problems you have, right? And so if you have all these problems and all these things in your head, you're going to start being like negative and down on yourself. You're like, man, like I suck. My company sucks. What the heck? I can't grow and scale my company. I don't want to take on more clients because everything sucks, right? It's like kind of that. it's like this, like, catch-22 feedback you get into, like, I want to build and scale, but then like I don't feel like I should because things aren't working right. So like that's a huge trap. The second trap, in that is, really like doing any of the fulfillment, right? So like that's part of it too, right? If you're doing fulfillment, it's another trap. You're just gonna add more work for yourself, right, as you grow. But really, like the second part here too is like, I love my employees, right? But we got close to a team of, I think we're at about 15 right now. And so right, in the last like 12 months, the company went from like 1 employee to like 15. So it's like, if you're dealing with all those employees on a day-to-day basis, like and this maybe is different for other people, but specifically for me, like I'm a terrible manager, and a lot of visionaries are, because we have all these ideas, we have these thoughts, right? And then like we're in a conversation with somebody and we tell them to do something differently, or you like kind of get this perfectionist, right? You built this baby, you built this system and process, and it's like if anybody makes like one tiny mistake, you're going to notice that, all right? And if you start seeing, like all of your employees making mistakes, right? Even though they may not be making that much, if you're seeing it on a day-to-day basis, like all the problems in your business, like it's going to drive you crazy. Like, and you're not going to be able to, like, you're going to lose sleep over this stuff. And so it's really important to like disconnect yourself from that day to day, so you can focus on that executive decision making, focusing on the big stuff and let your people handle the rest. And sometimes you just gotta let stuff fall by the wayside. I mean, you just do, and don't get me wrong, like I would love to say, hey, my team does everything 100% perfect and that's the way I want things, but I know that's not reality, from my experience as an entrepreneur. Like it's just not, no matter how many systems and processes you have placed, no matter how many quality control, whether software that's double checking, information, or whether it's like you have somebody that's specifically doing QA, which we do both, like stuff's still going to fall through the cracks, man. And if you're involved in the day-to-day, that's just going to just get at you. That being said, I do have times throughout the year, right, where what I do is, for example, next quarter, right, I usually do this during Q4, so I know like how to build my, next year vision out. So during Q4, what I'll do is I'll actually shadow each job that we have in the company, right? Okay. So I'll spend like a day or two, shadowing that job. So for our callers, right, I'll shadow like a few different callers for a couple of days, see what they're doing, see what, kind of the good is, what the bad is. And you learn a lot of cool stuff that people are doing. You're like, man, I didn't even know that, you guys, that's awesome. Everybody needs this, right? Yeah. So do that. And then I go into the different roles. I basically just shadow people, and so like, that's like my equivalent, of walking the floor, right? Because we're virtual. So what we do is we just jump on like a Zoom call. They're sharing their screen and I'm just not doing nothing. I'm not saying nothing. I'm not critiquing them right then and there. I'm just taking notes, and I'm keeping that recording. And so what that allows me to do is it allows me to kind of walk the floor virtually, but also not be disconnected from my businesses to where I don't know what's going on. And right. Cause like there's a fine line between not like being pie in the sky, and like having all these crazy ideas, but not having any real idea of how your employees really feel and what they're really going through, versus like dealing with that stuff on a daily basis. That's just going to drive you crazy to where you can't focus on what your roles are, as the entrepreneur or as the visionary of the company.
So, I mean, Sal, I really appreciate you open up the playbook like this. I feel like you shared a lot more than you intended to coming in. But if people are interested in being one of those 3 to 5 people that you work with per year, where should they go? How do they connect with you?
Yeah, I mean, one of the easiest ways, just hit me up on, Facebook. You can send me a, email at sal@socialmarketing180.com. Not really, I technically got Instagram, but I'm not really on there, but really like LinkedIn, that's a really great place, Okay. So I'm sure you guys will have my name somewhere on here. So you can just, look up Salvatore Steffano on LinkedIn. Those are really the best ways. I don't have like a specific landing page to send to you, just because like I usually only take on people through referrals, but that being said, like my biggest thing is like, I got into what I do for business to help people. And like, that's honestly what I care about. But at the same time, it's like, I know like there's only so many people that,
absolutely
actually help. And so if something I said resonate with somebody, I think right now I'm literally at like 4 people I'm working with that right now. So I have like a couple, I have like 3 other agencies and 1 other company outside of agencies that I work with. So I do technically have 1 more space right now, but it just, for this year. So it just, have to be like somebody that's really just like, man, like I'm doing good and I just want to to put it very simple. I only work with people who want to be the absolute best at what they want to do and are willing to do whatever it takes to get there. And so if you're one of those people, feel free to hit me up. And if not, hey, there's a lot of golden nuggets in this video. You can still follow my pages. I post all kinds of stuff. I'm kind of an open book, and if you need advice, you can just send me a message. I'm not saying I'm going to take you as a client, and I'm not saying like hours a day to speak, but if like you have something that you're really struggling with and like you've done your due diligence, right? And you can send me something like, don't send me something like, hey, like, how do I pick a niche, but if you're like, hey, I have this specific problem, this is what's going on, this is what I need help with. Like most of the time, man, I'll just give you tell you what you should do for free, just because I believe in building goodwill and helping people, even if like there's not a monetary exchange, the world's a big place. You never know, man. Like, I don't know. It's one of the things I hate is when people underestimate me. And it happens all the time because dude, if you see me on the streets, I look like a bum, and I don't like try to be fancy and stuff. Back when I was like the brokest I ever was.
So note to everyone who's going to reach out to Stal, start your email with, you probably won't be able to figure this out, but here's my problem.
Yeah, you challenge me, I might, if you send me a challenge, it'll probably make me just want to help you out even more. So
well, Sal, we're really proud to have folks like you in our community who are so willing to help. And thank you again for coming on to be so open about the success that you guys are having and how you're making it happen.
Absolutely. Thank you, Chase, man. Love you guys at High Level. You guys, no lie, High Level was the reason why after selling my last business before that, I got back into running an agency is nice. Very specifically because I was like, man, this solves a lot of the problems, that lead gen has. So thank you, Chase. I appreciate it, man. You guys are awesome. And, we'll talk again here soon.
We'll see you guys in the next one.
All right.